Welcome. In this video, I'm going to go through the motion code blocks, basically the top category of code blocks in Scratch that are the blue color-coded ones. We are going to pretty much talk about all of them here. There's a couple we'll skip over, at least for right now. But for the most part, this is going to be about either making your sprite move to a location or having the sprite turn or rotate in various ways. Many of these blocks, I think, are pretty self-explanatory, but if you need additional help on any of them, there are links to the tutorial pages or the information pages on the Scratch website in our class Moodle, and you can always follow those to get more information. But what I want to do here is just kind of go through each one and let you see how it works and just give my comments on everything. So let's get started. I have a project here. I've got two sprites in it. I've got our friend the Sprat Cat, and I've thrown an apple down here in the corner. We're going to mainly be dealing with moving the Sprat Cat around, but the apple is going to be there for a particular reason, which you will see in a few minutes. So I'm going to be doing all of adding my code to the cat sprite, or sprite 1. So here we go. Just sort of starting at the top of the list. The first motion command is move, and then you get to type in a number, and then steps. For Scratch's purposes, the word steps means pixels. So what this will do is it will make the sprite move in the direction that is currently pointing. So for instance, if I look over here, this cat is currently pointing at 90 degrees. So it will move in that direction, however many pixels I type in the box. Remember that the Scratch screen is 480 pixels wide by 180 pixels tall. So, by 360 pixels tall, 180 to each side. So in terms of moving things, just kind of keep in mind that grid size. So the default is just move 10 steps with that in here. Now every time I click on this to make it go, you'll see that the Sprat Cat will move to the right 10 pixels. So click, it moves, click, it moves, click, it moves, click, it moves. And you can see right here that every time I clicked it, the X was increasing by 10, and that was the direction it was moving in. I can have it move backwards by putting in a negative number, and then it'll move basically in reverse of the direction that it's facing. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. The nice thing is you don't have to really specify a direction. It just assumes that your sprite is going to move in the direction it's facing, but you just need to make sure you know what that direction is so that it doesn't move in a direction that you don't know. So that's nice for incremental moves, but what if you want to just have your sprite go to a particular location? So I'm going to go slightly out of sequence here. I'm going to go to this next one, which says go to X, Y, and you've got two entry boxes there. And you probably figure this out, but basically whatever numbers you type into those two fields, that's where your sprite will go in the X and Y. So if I want it to move over to the left, maybe I'll have it go to minus 120. And if I want to have it also go up, let's say somewhere about plus 60 or so. So when I click on that and execute it, the cat should move somewhere up roughly in this location. Let's see if that happens. Yep. And the thing about this one, the other one, if I kept clicking it, it would keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. This one, if I click it again, nothing's going to happen because the sprite is at that position already. So this is a command that will move a sprite to a particular place and then just kind of park it there. Now I can also, there's a go to and then just a little pull down menu option. And this just gives you a way to pick a couple of different things to have in terms of a location. Go to, and there will be at least two, if not more, options in the pull down menu. The first one is random position. And again, it's exactly what it says. Every time I click on it, it's going to move the cat to some somewhat mathematically random location on the screen. So it picks the numbers. So if you just want to have something jumping around all over the place, that is an option. It also has the option of going to the mouse pointer. So what this will do is it will have the sprite move to wherever the mouse pointer is on the screen. Um, so right now, if I click on that, it's going to be a little weird because my mouse pointer is not in the Sprat window or the Scratch window, but it'll try to jump the sprite towards the mouse pointer. So that was as close as it could get because my mouse was over here off the screen. Um, so that would be a way if you combined that with a key command or one of the event commands we looked at last week, then if a student had their pointer on the screen somewhere, then you could have a sprite jump to that location. The other option will depend on whether you have other sprites, and this is part of the reason I put the second sprite in there, is you can also have a sprite jump to another sprite. Right now the apple shows up in my list because it's the only other sprite in the project, but if I select that and then click on it, the cat will jump to the apple, and their coordinates will be the same. So in terms of sort of jumping to a location, those are the three main options. Either have it move incrementally in a direction, have it jump right to a specified location, or have it jump to either a random, the mouse pointer, or another sprite that's already on the screen. The other two options that are paired with this are the glide commands. And the glide commands, actually I'll set them up this way so they're kind of lined up. The glide commands actually are paired with these two go-to commands. The only difference here is that rather than jumping right to a location, it will take a certain amount of time to get there. So it kind of creates a smooth movement. So I'm going to put in a 0 location here, and I'll say glide in 3 seconds to that location. When I click on it, the cat will take 3 seconds to move from here to the center of the screen. 2, 3, boom, and there it is. And then the second one has the same pull down menu of a random position, the mouse pointer, or the apple. And again, you just specify a certain number of seconds that you want it to take to do that. And when that command executes. So I'm doing the random position one. So now every time I click on it, in 2 seconds, it will move to some random position on the screen. So it's just a way to make the movement a little smoother. Say maybe you have a game piece that you're moving around a board. Maybe you don't want it to just jump right to the next box, but to kind of animate and make it slide from one box to the next. That's where the two glide things come in. Then the other ones related to location, and they kind of follow in two pairs here, are change and set. And you have one for X on each, change X by and set X to, and then you have change Y by and set Y to. And this would be like the move command would be like the change. In this case, though, rather than moving in the direction of the sprite, it will move either along the x-axis or the y-axis. So this would be a way if you wanted it to just move in one direction or the other by a certain amount every time it's clicked on, then you could do that. So change x by 10, every time I click it, it moves, x goes up by 10. Change y by 10, every time I click it, the y goes up by 10. And then the final two are the set x2 and set y2. And honestly, this is the same as go to xy, except that they've split the x and the y separately. So if for some reason you want it to stay wherever it is y-wise, but want it to jump to a certain left and right, you can use just the set x command. And if you wanted to just jump somewhere on the y-axis and leave the x alone, you can have that command too. So those that group of commands are all of the basic move commands, either jumping to a location or sliding, gliding to a location and going from there. So I think they're pretty straightforward. The two that have the pull down menus can be a little trickier because the things that they're moving towards can change. But the others, if you just remember that we've got minus 240 to plus 240 on the X, and we've got minus 180 to plus 180 on the Y. The rest is just figuring out the numbers for the sprite. All right, so that is location. The other half of this is rotation. And this is sort of the other way to get things to move. So the first two commands to look at are turn clockwise and turn counterclockwise. And they do exactly what they say. This one says clockwise 15 degrees. This would be like the move 10 steps. Every time I click on it, then it's going to rotate another 15 degrees. And I guess if I click it enough times, it should come back around to 0 or 90. That's actually 90 because it's facing to the right. And same thing for the counterclockwise movement, just goes in the other direction. And again, you can type in the number of degrees you want. Honestly, you can even go past 360. You won't see it spin around past 360, but it'll just figure out what that means. And again, just remember that up is 0 degrees, to the right is 90, down is 270 or 180, and to the left is 270. So you've got that there. So that's the basic turning. We can also have it go directly to a certain rotation. This would be like the go to XY or the go to with the pull down menu up here. Now this one is not just incrementing the turning, but it's actually saying point in this direction, regardless of where it's pointing now. So if I make this, oh, and it always gives you this little angle picker too, which can be handy. I could say point in direction 0. Now the cat's pointed up. If I keep clicking it, it doesn't keep moving because it's already at 0. So you've got that pointing it in a direction. And then just like we had this one with the pull down menu where we could have it go to a particular thing, here we have point towards, and they don't give you a random option on this one. There is actually a way to achieve that, which we'll look at down the road, but you can point it towards the mouse pointer, or you can have it point towards one of the other sprites that's on the screen. So this would be a way where somebody could be moving their mouse around and the cat could actually be spinning to look at wherever the mouse pointer is going. So those are the basic rotation things. The only other thing is the rotation style. And what this has to do with is it doesn't change the rotation of the object. So it's the direction will change with any of these commands. But some sprites you want, in terms of how they appear on the screen, you want them to behave in a particular way. I'm thinking of most like early platform video games where the characters you were playing only faced right or left. They could be jumping up and down, they could be going around in a circle, but the little character on the screen would only point straight right or only point straight left. And that's kind of what this is about. So we've got 3 options here. Right now, the sort of the default is the all around. And that just lets the sprite face in any direction, whatever you give it in terms of degrees, it'll face that way. If I do it as left right, what'll happen is the direction will change, but when the direction reaches, the sprite won't rotate, only its direction it will. When it reaches past 0 degrees or 180 degrees, then the sprite will flip. It'll reflect so that it's facing left. So I'm going to start turning this thing counterclockwise. Oop, I didn't set the rotation style. There, now it's set left, right. So I'm going to start turning it counterclockwise, and you'll see it's not rotating, but the direction angle is, just the visual is not. So there's 15 degrees, there's 0 degrees. Now when I turn it 15 degrees more, the cat will turn and face the other way. Boom. And now as I'm turning it past on that side, the cat will just stay facing to the left. So it's the tricky thing about this, especially if you're using like a move command, is that it will move in the direction of the angle, but the sprite may not be physically facing that direction. So I would say just the easiest thing to do is to play around with it to get a handle on how that works. Some sprites, it really doesn't matter, but if it's a character, you probably don't want the character flipping upside down and doing things like that. So that's the left-right option. The final one is don't rotate. And this just takes that to an extreme, and it just means this sprite will always be facing to the right, regardless of what you put in for its direction. So if you have a sprite that should only face in one direction, no matter where it's going or what direction it's traveling in, then you would use that rotational style. So those are the three options there. I'm going to set it back to all around, and it flipped because, oop, 0, there's 90. All right. So so that basically is all of the move commands. The only thing I skipped for right now is if on edge bounce. And we may come back to that one down the road, but that just has to do with what happens to a sprite when it reaches the edge of the screen. So we'll talk a little bit about that down the road, but for right now, I don't think we need to address that. And as in last week, there are these reporters down at the bottom: X position, Y position, and direction. Those we will get to the next class of for Scratch. So we'll get to those. But other than that, that was everything else here in the motion category. You can obviously connect any of these to any of those events. So a very common thing would be to say, let's see, let's do this. So when, let's see, we're changing X by 10. So let's say when the right arrow is pressed, change X by 10. So now when I push the right arrow, it moves in that direction. And then I could obviously set up another one. Let me do it here. I could say when the left arrow, and then change by -10. So now when I push the left arrow, the cat moves back. So combining it with some of our work from last week, using those events can then get you to trigger when any of these moves happen. All right, that is it for this. I would suggest taking some time now and just exploring that on your own. It will be a part of the mini project for this week. But if you want to just kind of check it all out and see how it all works, you can check the more detailed pages on the Scratch page by following the links in our Moodle on the Can You page. And obviously, if you still are having issues or questions, feel free to reach out to me as well. All right, that's it for this video. And then there will be a second one for tonight having to do with control, with loops and so on. So, but that will be a separate video. All right, that's all for now.